the things that we're talking about in this are your talking head videos. There's different types of talking head videos. There's definitely talking head videos where you are doing a promotion. Hey parents, I just want to let you know right now in Augusta, Georgia, we are running a back to school special for the next 25 people. That's a promo, right? We're going to have that energy. We're upbeat right now, blah, blah, blah. Like we're channeling our inner marketer, right? We're going to do that. So the promos. The other thing is the stories. Brandon Kemmer's been really leaning in on this. And guys, one of the other things I think that is an advantage that I have that maybe would be helpful for all of you, you're going to come back, you're going to implement some of this stuff. Y'all should follow each other's social pages. Like I have that because everybody's running ads. So I see your stuff, you know, and it's in my feed sometimes. And so some that like Brandon Kemmer did one the other day and I was like, dang, that was good. I'm going to steal that one. It's not stealing. We're all, you know, together, right? But like he did a cool one. He was like, Donna, put your shoes on right now. And then he goes, parents, does it always feel like you're having to get to the final line where your child actually listens? And then he starts talking about how kids recognize patterns. So if they recognize that you're not serious until you get to the fourth time, they'll always think that. Well, what do we do in martial arts? We teach the kid how to listen on the first time because that's the expectation. And so it was really cool how he tied it in. I was like, ooh, that's a good one. That's a good hook. And that wasn't necessarily that it was a promotion. It wasn't a promotion. It was a soft promo. At the end, he was like, if your child's been struggling with listening at home, bring him in. I'd love to meet him. My name's Brandon Kemmer. You can tap the link for more info. It was really like chill on the end. But it got shares. It got engagement because it's a common struggle. And it was a story. He started with a story, an invisible character that he was talking about, right? So how could you do something like that? And that's why I brought story up because it is a little bit different than a tip or a tutorial. A tip could follow the same format. Hey parents, I'm gonna give you 3 tips to get your 4-year-old to start listening better. That's a tip. A tutorial might be something as simple. I think some of the things that we've taken for granted is, at least I have, and something that we've also got to focus on more, is it's okay to do tutorials about how you teach kids. Like one of the things that I noticed that was interesting is we did a sparring tutorial for kids and put it on our YouTube and it got a lot of views. There were no kids in it. There were 2 adult instructors, but we were talking about how you teach your child the basics of sparring so they're not afraid of it, so that they, you know, can see how they're going to engage. And then we talked about how we do it at SKC, and it actually got, you know, more views than the rest of it. It's not like they're getting millions of views, but you know, it got more views. And it was just teaching the basics of that. I think really what it comes down to is people want to see how you would teach their kid and see how you would do that. There was a video that I saw the other day that did have millions of views, and it was a instructor who had taken his, I wouldn't recommend this, but the reason why it got millions of views is because what he did, he took his kids outside to a parking lot and he was telling them, he's like, guys, he was separating himself, he was throwing rocks. He was like, all these jiu-jitsu schools who think that you're just gonna be rolling around on a mat when you get into a fight, they don't realize how hard this is to roll around on. So we're gonna practice right now. And he had kids on their back doing UPA lifts and like rolling people off and doing self-defense techniques and learning how to stand off the ground. And they're getting their hands on the ground. You know, they're learning all that. And I was thinking about that myself. Like, I've done stuff where we've been outside training. And I thought about this and I was like, my kid would freak out if I told him we had to do martial arts outside. Like, he'd be like, what? This would rock his whole world. And I was thinking, well, the reason why that got some shares and things like that is because you're seeing these kids outside doing martial arts. You would never see that typically. So some of your tutorial videos can be actual tutorials on martial arts techniques, or you can take it outside, like we're in a different environment. So there's just different ways that you can do these types of things. What I see a lot of martial arts schools fall into for tutorials is more falling into, this is the self-defense tip. Even if you're a kid's school, you're still doing self-defense tips for women, but you're a kid's school. So why are we, like, it's a disconnect. Oh, I'm going to get the moms to come in, but who are we promoting, which comes back to our ideal student profile. So promos, stories, tips, tutorials, these are what would be talking heads. Another version of this would be an interview. That would be either you're getting interviewed or you're interviewing someone else. So this could be a testimonial, if you want to call it this way. You could do a version of that. I think that's kind of similar. Like an interview would be I'm talking with someone and they're on camera. A testimonial would just, I'm giving my testimony of how I think the school is amazing, right? Either one of those are things that it's going to take you a little bit of extra effort to do this.